hand side, I'm going to be multiplying negative 1/2 times everything in parentheses, and on the right hand side, I'm going to be multiplying 3 times everything in parentheses. So on the left hand side, I don't want to drop this 4. This is one thing the kids will do sometimes, is they'll drop that 4 at the beginning. So make sure that you keep copying that down as you do your steps. So 4 plus negative 1/2 times 4 over 1x plus negative 1/2 times negative 6 over 1. Now notice as I write my distributive property down that I am putting everything as a fraction, because when you multiply, you're multiplying numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator, so it really does help to be able to see what's your numerator and what's your denominator. So that's my left-hand side. Over on my right-hand side, it's a little easier. I have 3 times negative x, which is just negative 3x, and then 3 times 6, which is 18. And remember to put that plus negative 5 at the end. Be really careful not to drop off any numbers. So I'm just warning you of some of the careless mistakes that students will make. Now, I need to come in on the left-hand side and finish out my distributive property by doing the multiplication. And I'm going to be doing some cross-canceling. So 1/2 times 4, the 2 goes into 4 2 times, and then negative 1/2 times negative 6, 2 goes into 6 3 times. So I'm going to simplify, and I get 4 plus, here I have a negative times a positive, so I end up with negative 2x. And then for our next term, we have a negative times a negative, so I'm going to end up with positive 3. On the right-hand side, I can go ahead and add my 18 and my negative 5, because they're like terms. So I get 13. So now I'm going to add my like terms. On the left-hand side, 4 and 3 are like terms, so I end up with negative 2x plus 7, because 4 plus 3 is 7, equals negative 3x plus 13. So now my equation is written in a basic way, so I can go ahead with my regular solving. So the 4 and the 3 are like terms that give me 7. So now I'm going to add negative 7 to both sides, and I have to line it up under my like terms. Negative 7 is a constant, so I'm going to line it up under my constant on the other side. So when I simplify, I get negative 2x, and then 7 and the negative 7 are now gone because they added to equal 0. And on the right-hand side, I end up with negative 3x plus 13 plus negative 7 is 6. So now I am going to add 3x to both sides so that I don't have any x's or any variables on my right-hand side, and they're all on my left-hand side. When I do that, I end up with x equals negative 3x and positive 3x cancel to equal 0, so they're gone. So x equals 6. And I don't have to do the reciprocal property here because there's no number being multiplied times x, which is nice. They're always fun when they come out like that, and we don't have to do the reciprocal property. So in this problem, as usual, I'm going to change subtraction to addition as my first step. Now on the left-hand side, I'm going to have to do the distributive property, distributing 2/3 times m and 2/3 times negative 1/2. On the right-hand side, I can't do anything except change the division to multiplication, and I'll do that on my next step. So here I'm going to get 2/3 times m plus 2/3 times negative 1/2. So that's my distribution step. Remember to keep that plus 3. We'll deal with that in a few minutes. I'm going to change m divided by 3 to 1/3 m plus negative 7 on this step. So on my next step, I'm going to finish the distribution on the left-hand side. 2/3 m is just 2/3 m. Can't really do anything with that. But I can do some cross-canceling where I multiply 2/3 times negative 1/2. And when I multiply the positive times negative fraction, I end up with negative 1/3 plus 3 equals 1/3 m plus negative 7. So all I did was finish the distribution. Now I need to add my like terms. My 3 and negative 1/3 are like terms, and when I add those together, I actually end up subtracting since they're different signs. So I end up with a positive 2 and 2/3 equals 1/3 m plus negative 7. I'm going to leave that as 2 and 2/3 because I'm going to end up adding, and we want to have mixed numbers when we add and subtract. We'll add negatives. And we want to have fractions without mixed numbers when we multiply. So I'm going to go ahead and add negative 2 and 2/3 to both sides. So that gets rid of my 2 and 2/3 on the left. And I'm left with 2/3 m on the left and 1/3 m plus negative 9 and 2/3 on the right when I add my negative 7 plus my negative 2 and 2/3. Remember, adding negatives, you add them together. So the next thing I'm going to do is add negative 1/3 m to both sides. And I end up with 1/3 m equals, the 1/3 m and the negative 1/3 m equals 0. So that's negative 9 and 2/3. Now I'm going to have to change the negative 9 and 2/3. I need to change the negative 9 and 2/3 to an improper fraction so that I can multiply by the reciprocal. So I get 1/3 m equals 3 times 9 is 27 and 2 is 29 over 3. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 3 over 1. And when I do, those 3's cancel, and we're left with m equals negative 29.